Welcome to Gone Phishing, a show diving into the cybersecurity threats that surround our highly connected lives. Every human is different. Every person has unique vulnerabilities that expose them to potentially successful social engineering. On this show, we'll discuss human vulnerability and how it relates to unique individuals. I'm Connor Swalm, CEO of FinSecurity, and welcome to Gone Phishing. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Gone Phishing. I'm your host, Connor, CEO at Fin, and I am joined once again, had him on like a lot of times at this point, by the president of Fifth Wall Solutions, Reid Wellock. Reid, how are you?
Doing good, Connor. Happy to be here.
So, folks, if you're listening or watching, we've had Reid on twice in the recent past. We talked about cyber insurance, which is what Fifth Wall Solutions does. We also talked about client input in the sales process and a little bit about, motivation.
Yeah.
And today we're talking about insurance transparency. So if you haven't watched the first episode we did, one of the biggest black holes of information that I'm aware of from all of the partners that talk to me, from all the clients I meet at conferences and just have conversations with, is cyber insurance. They don't know what their clients need. They don't know how to answer a lot of the questions that are coming their way. They don't know if their clients should get cyber insurance. In which cases? Is it all cases? What kind of cyber insurance should they get? It's just this incredibly diverse and complicated field that a lot of people, like I said, it has the two scariest words known to man, and it's cybersecurity and insurance. So everyone just wants to avoid it. So insurance transparency. Tell us about that. What needs to change? What is changing? How are we bringing that about?
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the beginning, if you will. And we'll ask what has changed, because I think that's a good indicator of hopefully where this is heading. And I'm going to go all the way back. Folks remember back in 2016. Connor, I believe you were born at that point.
I believe so.
Yeah. There's, cyber insurance is very different for many, many, many different reasons. But on this subject matter, the whole transparency piece was really, there was none. But also there didn't really need to be any, because cyber insurance didn't require much, didn't really require anything to get it and to get whatever the rate was. And the rate 9 times out of 10 was going to be really dirt cheap, because they didn't really know what they were doing, they being the carriers, and they didn't really know what they were selling, and they didn't really know what they were insuring. All those things very quickly became much more clear the hard way as ransomware hit, and we got through so many claims, and insurers were backing out of cyber, and we went through just a complete market just turned upside down. The market was turned upside down. So what has occurred up to this point was, we have a process where they're asking a lot more questions to get a sense of who this business is, they being the insurance company, is insuring. They're asking all these questions, and before there were 20, then there were 50. Now there's 150, right? So what matters? And that's the big question. That's the transparency piece we're talking about, folks, is if I'm an end user, if I'm a client and I'm trying to fill out this application, and there's a lot of things on here, some of the things I may be doing, but a lot of them I'm not. What matters, right? What are the parts and pieces that I really need to be concerned about? Because also as a consumer, you want to feel like you have a little bit more control over the situation to say, well, wait a minute. If I don't understand how I'm being evaluated, how do I know what to do, for myself to improve my risk in your eyes, Mr. or Mrs. Insurer? And so historically that's changed, not because it's standardized, but you have all these independent insurance companies that have realized kind of the table stake behavior of what actually matters, right? And if you've heard any other insurance, podcast or read blogs, this is a very popular topic of what are the core things that matter, like MFA, EDR, security awareness training, phishing simulation. These are the things now that we go, okay, those are the things that if you have them, it actually matters. And if you don't have them, it's even a bigger issue, because you may not even be eligible for insurance, let alone paying a ridiculous rate. So Connor, I think the transparency thing is kind of flushed out because you've got a lot of people that were getting really frustrated, Fifth Wall included. We started studying the data really, really, really hard. And we started asking the questions, all the carriers. Even if they wouldn't give it to us, we were asking more. We wanted to keep prying on like what actually matters here. And then we were able to kind of make some generalizations based off of those answers. And I think that's something that has been really, really helpful for clients to understand. It's been really, really helpful for MSPs to understand because it's something that's leverageable for them to understand like what matters. And guess what? For cybersecurity solutions that MSP is trying to drive and support to their end clients, cyber insurance has been really beneficial to help that mission. But moving forward, we're trying to see not only what are the different controls that matter, but how are insurance companies going to be evaluating risks moving forward? And that's going to be the big question mark, I think, that we can kind of dive into. That I think we're seeing some trends. We're certainly seeing some products that are coming up that are doing some things that are really cool, and we're excited about that. The future, I think, is bright. But we just went through a big learning curve that I really hope insurance companies maintain. Right.
Exactly what you mentioned is exactly what I experienced with my MSP partners that we serve. There's like this scary universe where it's like normally you can sell anything to your clients, but if you're not a licensed insurance agent or you're not licensed to sell insurance at all, sometimes you can't even have the conversation with them. And right. I remember having conversations with you and with Dustin and with Wilson, with Henry and everyone, where it was like, well, what can't people do? It's like, well, you can't recommend coverage limits. You can't recommend they do X, Y, and Z to get this type of insurance. Basically, you could just introduce them to an insurance agent, and that's it.
Right.
And then when they bring the policy back to you and say, "Hey, did we do these things?" you can answer truthfully. So, what are some of the ways you imagine that either Fifth Wall or you are bringing about this transparency? That, like I said, I hope the learning curve continues because I've seen it start to change, but it started in a really unknown place. I would say at the beginning of like 2023 and earlier into 22.
So, yeah, a couple things. One is, education's just one of those given, right? That's Fifth Wall is going to continue to do what I just said. We're asking on repeat these questions to the carriers, right? Whenever they put together a new form, whenever they change their application, we're going, great. See the changes. Now, what changes, why, and what matters? And getting beyond the it all matters conversation. And then we want to keep distilling that down through our vendor partners and through our MSP partners to make sure everyone's understanding what this is, at least generally speaking. The next thing that we're doing and that I think is really important is, I'll say we, but I know for a fact that there's others thinking in this space in this way. There need to be specific products that aren't following just the general cadence and tone of how this process needs to be driven, which is insurance has always been done a certain way. So cyber should be no different, right? No, like on our last talk we did, Connor, we were talking about how like these things can change. And we're not trying to be like extreme here about it, but like by the minute even, right?
Yeah.
And so what Fifth Wall's been working on, and I know some others are as well, is bringing products that provide that transparency right up front, right? And so what does it mean if you are an MSP and you are trying to talk to your client about the importance of security awareness training or the importance of MDR or whatever it is, and also saying, look, this is really important for your insurance as well. What we want to be able to say is like, it's not all stick, that there's carrot involved here. And I think if you've done anything in teaching, or if you've had children, right, you want to lead with positive reinforcement, not negative reinforcement. I think insurance is really about negative reinforcement. And the way to change that is, we feel is, hey, look, if you are able to move towards these solutions, you should have a direct impact on those investments. You should get an ROI, right? So if you make this investment, your insurance premium shouldn't continue to go up. It should start to go down, right? And so, Fifth Wall is going to be releasing some products here that are going to be doing just that. We have one in particular that we're going to be doing an announcement around called Beltex, and that's actually built specifically with the MSPs in mind in that process, right? And having transparency, particularly around not just what is required up front and what that means, but then also on the back end when it comes to IR. A big point of contention, at least me personally, as we've worked with these carriers, is they're like, time is money, and our claims are going through the roof, and they're all looking at front end. They're all looking left of boom. We're saying, yeah, that's really important, but if you look right at Boom, there's so much savings there because, again, you took this archaic process and you tried to shoehorn it into a cyber event and an incident response. And so, bringing a product to the table that allows more transparency there and more participation, particularly from an MSP, we think is really critical. And so, I think this evolution that we're participating in and that others are as well is, transparency up front, right? There's the front end, but then on the back end as well is just having more transparency. I know for a fact, and I can say this very confidently, because anytime I'm out there doing a talk and we open up for Q&A and there's a sea of MSPs out there, right? So many questions around IR. What's my role? How do I not, where's the police tape that an insurance company is going to put up? How do I know whether or not I'm going to cross that boundary? Do I need to call the insurance company directly? Does the client call me direct? What is, there's so much need for education there. And so, Connor, I think that's where this is headed. And that's where I'd like to see it is we get more transparent. There's certainly companies that want to provide more transparency, but then they have products, and those products specifically have, a clear book around it, right?
I remember, I forget which conference we were all at. We were sitting in a Starbucks talking about, wouldn't it be nice if the vendors that a client who an insured client used to satisfy cyber insurance requirements could share its data back with the person, the underwriter, whoever's responsible for the premiums, and say, hey, we are a way better risk. Like you had mentioned in the last episode we did on insurance, is they're there to make good bets. It's like, hey, I just proved that I'm a better bet than you thought. And here's how exactly. Can I please have a reduction on my premiums? Or can we find some way to make that beneficial to me as well? Because honestly, also cybersecurity is expensive. You want to have a real security process and you want to have a real security program at your company. Sometimes that not sometimes. It always requires financial investment. Sometimes a lot of financial investment. So,
yeah, look, even casinos know to put up their big spenders in a really nice hotel room. All right. So, at the very least, we're saying there should be a return on that investment for knowing what the good things are and actually moving towards them. So, it's about time.
For folks who wanted to learn more about Fifth Wall, learn more about Beltex, where would you suggest they go?
So if you're familiar with the interwebs, go to fifthwallsolutions.com/MSP. Easiest way to find us. Fill out quick info, and we'll get in touch with you. And we love to talk to all of our partners. And we have a full onboarding process that's really around education first. So if it's something you're like, hey, this sounds interesting, I'd love to just kind of know what these people do. That's literally the first engagement we have. It's a 15-minute, hey, this is what these people do. And if you want to go further, great. And if not, it's been nice to talk to you. Awesome.
For everyone listening or watching, we will have links to that in the show notes so you can go right there. Reid, it was a blast chatting with you. Thanks so much for joining. I can't wait to have you on another episode.
Pleasure, as always, Connor. Thanks, everyone.
Anytime. See you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in to Gone Phishing. If you want to find out more about high-quality security awareness training campaigns, how to launch them in ways that actually engage employees to change their habits, then check us out, FinSecurity, at finsec.io. That's PHINSEC.io. Or click all of the wonderful links in our show notes. Thanks for fishing with me today, and we'll see you next time.